Hey, well,
Hey.
so I was just basically introducing what we're going to be talking about today as far as division, but I wanted to bring you on and have you introduce yourself. So, Juliette, why don't you just tell everybody who's listening in a little bit about you?
So I'm Juliette Marie. I live in Tempe, Arizona, and I'm a sound healer, life coach, yoga instructor, do a little bit of everything. I have the home studio called The Healing House Tempe. You can find me at The Healing House Tempe on Instagram or at Awaken to Healing on Instagram as well. And I help people with a variety of things that they're struggling through, whether it's anxiety or things that they're struggling in their life, trauma they've been through. And so I'm just so grateful to be here.
All right, yeah. And so, I mean, I gave my perspective on what we're talking about today as far as how there's like, divergent narratives and there's like a main narrative and then there's people who disagree with it and there's a lot of like butting of heads, even within families. I know that I'm experiencing it. I know that you mentioned you're experiencing it. Can you just kind of give us your thoughts on that and what you want to talk about today?
So yeah, the title of this is Healing the 2020s with Unity, Not Division. And I feel that right now what's been going on is there's been a lot of division, a lot of separation between what's going on politically in the world and people that we love, our family and our friends. It's like timelines are splitting and it's like two different separate realities completely. And we're seeing the world through such a different lens that a lot of families are fighting and a lot of friendships are breaking. And so what I'm here today is to kind of bridge the gap of what do we have in common and how can we relate to other people that might have a different belief of what's going on in the world right now. Maybe their sources of news or information are different, and kind of see the common ground and bringing us together with unity and love instead of the separation. I feel that there's a lot of fear on both sides, and it's a heavy vibration of fear. And I just wanted to kind of tap on my thoughts of what I've been through and how I've navigated through with friends and family.
Well, hey, can you talk first about that? The fear on both sides, because I feel like we want to say the other side, but let's just say people following the mainstream narrative seem to be in a lot of fear. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and then why people who aren't would still have fear, and like what's going on there?
Okay. So I don't want to call any side out. I kind of want to be like neutral in this. But people that watch the mainstream news, that is their reality. That is real for them. Um, when I went through my spiritual awakening, to go back a little bit before we dive into that, when I went through my spiritual awakening, I thought I have to wake everybody up. I have to tell everybody my feelings. I have to tell everybody about vaccines. I have to tell the whole world. They have to listen to me, and I have to scream on the top of the mountain and tell everybody. And the thing is, information is out there and it's up to us. We have free will. We're allowed to perceive our own reality. We're allowed to find our own sources of information. That's why we're in America. We all have freedom, right? So there's a lot of vibration of fear, and I'm seeing it on both sides. So there's the fear from the mainstream media, which is, COVID. We're going to die of COVID. You have to wear a mask. You have to stay indoors. You have to isolate, this is a lot of fear. It's a lot of fear. And that's real. And then there's the fear of the vaccine, that people that have been researching vaccines, or maybe they're just starting to wake up or maybe they know someone that had an adverse reaction to a vaccine. And then they're fearful of, that we're going to be forced vaccinated. And, I don't want someone injecting or putting something in my body without my will. And that's scary for me because I don't feel safe and I don't feel like healthy doing this because I don't know the long-term effects. So I could see both sides, and two different sources of information, right? So coming from two different places. So there's the fear of COVID, and then there's the fear of vaccine, and it's this vibration of fear. So it's this vibration where we're scared, that like, oh no, shoot, I don't want this medical intervention without my consent. And then shoot, I don't want to catch something where I feel like I'm going to die. So it's like two different, completely different narratives happening at the same time, right? And it's causing a lot of division, and it's causing division with friends, family, and people I love. And so I'm here to like kind of tell you how I've navigated through, and then how you can navigate through too, because I'm sure that you're affected by this in your life.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've, lost a lot of friends. I've been, publicly shamed and slandered. I've been, kicked out of establishments. I've been, I kind of lost track because I just try to focus on the positive. Because on the other hand, like I have gained a lot of new friends. I,
Hmm.
my business has grown. I've been able to get my message to a lot more people. Um,
There's
and
a
so,
lot of positives.
yeah, there's positives. And I still like mourn these losses, of course.
Hmm.
And definitely like within my family, like most of my family, one side of my family is pretty much on board with me, and the other side of my family is like thinks
Hmm.
that I,
You're a
just
nut job.
yes. And
They
um,
think you're absolutely out of your mind crazy, right?
I mean,
So,
they say it to my face, but they've expressed that they don't want to be around me in proximity.
mhm,
They'll talk to me on the phone, and they live far away, but they don't want me to come visit unless I've had, the thing.
the
Uh,
thing.
so
Yeah.
that's been difficult to navigate. We're all like, this is new. Like, there's no like contingency scenario of like, what if a pandemic happens, and how do you navigate the? Like, we're all figuring out as we go along. But I know
Mhm.
you have worked in. You're actually a counselor, right? By education, you have a master's degree in
Well, I have a
counseling.
master's in behavioral analysis, bachelor's in psychology. So, kind of all dealing with the body, or not the body. I'm dealing with the body now, but it's more the minds. But now I'm seeing the mind body connection. So, but I do have an education, I have a master's of education as well. So, yeah, so I do have a background of, I'm not like some dumb, uneducated person off the street that's just looking up conspiracies. But I like to see both sides. So, like, for me, it's like I can love people and accept people from all different political stances. Like I don't like the label left wing, right wing, I can't even say it. Right wing, left wing, Republican, Democrat. Like I don't like the labels. I don't like the judgments. I don't like the separation. Um, so it's like this division that's happening, right? Two different realities, completely different. So, how I see it is okay, let's put ourselves in the other person's shoes and see what they're seeing, right? And then we can like have empathy and feel their emotions and feelings without saying you're wrong, you're stupid, I'm right, you're wrong, you watch mainstream media, it's kind of like, okay, people are getting sources of information from mainstream, which, the older generations, that was their only source. And then the younger generations are getting alternative media, online, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or whatever. So it's two different sources of information. So we're being fed. So part of my family feels like I'm the brainwashed one because I'm seeing all this propaganda online, they call it. And then I'm like, no, you're the brainwashed one because you're seeing mainstream media. So the thing is, we're both thinking that the other person's brainwashed, right? So that's number one. Number two, we both have fear. Fear of this common fear is fear of illness or death, fear of people being hurt, fear of people that we love getting, injured. And so at the end of it, we're both wanting health and wellness, right? So for the people that are, on the other side, for them, that's health and wellness. And then for us on this side, this is health and wellness. So it's like we're both trying to find health and wellness, but we're seeing it in a different way. So I put myself in another person's shoes. And so I'm meeting so many people that are having these conversations with friends and family. And there's so much fighting and division. And so how I've learned to navigate through is to just be like, okay, it's okay that we're both seeing this differently. I still love you and accept you, and it's okay. We're seeing the world differently. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. We're just seeing it through a different lens. Our sources of information are different, and that's okay. You don't have to convince anyone. People are going to believe what they want to believe. No matter what evidence you show on either side, people have made up their minds. Now there's people that are open-minded that are like, hey, can you tell me more about that? And there are people that want to hear both sides. So you kind of just have to plant seeds and not force people. And people will come to their realizations when they're ready.
And so, are you talking about ways to like win people over your way of thinking, or are we just talking like how to just preserve relationships?
I mean, both. I mean, I don't really, to be honest with you, I want to maintain relationships with everybody that I love, right? So whatever belief you have, deep down inside our friendship, our family, it's more important than the political stuff. So keeping the peace. But if you do want to spread truth and awareness coming from a place of asking questions, right? So have you ever instead of saying, this is the right answer and this is the only way, saying, what about this? Oh, have you thought about this? What do you think about that? Have you ever thought of like the long-term effects of these medical procedures that we don't really know? Or are you a little concerned about, so asking thought-provoking questions instead of preaching and telling people, no, this is the way. People are a lot more receptive and willing to hear if you come from like, let's look at this together. We're on the same team. Like we're all on the same team. We all want the same things. So coming from love and not like anger, because I know there's a lot of anger going on right now. There's a lot of anger. People are like, I'm right, you're wrong. And it's not, we're unity. We're supposed to work together. So it's not us against each other. It's us against the problem. Nobody likes the whole pandemic that's going on. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes to be away from their friends and isolated. Even the people that are isolating themselves, nobody likes that. You can't tell one person, I like being isolated and I like wearing a mask and I like taking injections. Nobody likes that. So it's us against the pandemic, right? So it's not us against each other. And if we could bring unity and love and like, hey, let me ask you a question. How do you feel about this? Have you looked into that? What about this? Or, will you watch this video? What do you think of it? Instead of being like, like I'm better than you, like the ego. So we have to like let go of our ego.
So what I would love to do, because I have a question for you about a personal situation that I would like your advice on how to handle. But I think it would also be cool if anybody, we got about 25 people watching right now, which is amazing.
That's awesome.
If you have questions or like situations that come up with people, friends, family, coworkers, whomever, where there's big division and disagreement and like you need some help navigating it, comment, down below. The other Dr. Ben has said society's been programmed to hate. I agree. But I have a specific question. So I don't know if I've told you this story, but I won't name any names in my family. They're probably watching, but so someone in my family had a baby, and the baby is about 9 months old. And I said, hey, I really want to visit,
Mm-hmm.
And hey, well, if you are going to come to visit, and they're over on the other side of the country, we have to have a conversation about you either like getting vaccinated before you come, or wearing a mask around the baby, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like held it together while they were telling me this, but I got very angry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just like some guidance on like how to navigate that conversation, because I'm not going to be doing either one of those things.
Okay. So, everybody handles conflict differently. Everyone's family dynamic is different. I don't know the relationship with your family, but how I feel like is there has to be some kind of compromise, right? So, it's not like your family's saying you have to go get vaccinated. It's kind of like, okay, let's come to an agreement. Let's find something that could be a middle ground, right? So, and understanding that, first of all, validating, the first thing is to validate the other person's perspective. Like, I understand your fears, because so often we're going to be like, don't even worry about that. COVID, come on, forget that. Because like, you're not validating them. It makes
like, why big deal? Like, and I have a tip-top immune system, and babies don't get sick from this. Why are we even that's my gut reaction.
Yeah.
So
for them, that is going to put them in defense mode, and they're going to say, what? You're crazy. What are you talking about? Right? So you have to get into that other person. But this goes with any kind of conflict, not just what's going on in the world, right? So when you're having a disagreement with someone and someone tells you their emotion or their fears or their pains or their perception, it's so often that we want to get defensive, right? So we want to be like, you're wrong, I'm right, this is where I'm coming from, and we have to prove ourselves, right? So instead of thinking about what you have to say, take a breather, be like, okay, I'm triggered right now. This is triggering for me. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to take a break and go into their shoes and be like, okay, how are they feeling right now? Okay, can I visualize what's going on in their body? Put my feeling aside for a second and let me just feel what they're feeling. It's, the empathy. And like, it's not about who's right or wrong at that point. It's like, there's no convincing. Okay. So there's no reason to convince. There is just, it's like fighting and resistance. And Um, so understanding where they're coming from, they're fearful, right? And then it's interesting. Another story came up for me that's very similar to yours. But yeah, validating their concerns and then just being like, can we come to an agreement that feels good for both of us? Like, I know we're coming from different points of view, and I want to be sensitive to your feelings, and I really want to see the baby. So maybe we could come to like a middle ground, right? So whether that is, I mean, for me, my love for people that I love is like so strong that I'm like, you know what, if it makes you feel good to get a COVID test, wear a mask or whatever, I'm willing to do that. That's just me personally for people that I really love and care about. Because I'm like, I'd rather see them than not. I'd rather go into their world for a second and be there with my family. You know what I'm saying? If that makes them feel good and safe, I'm okay with that. They understand my beliefs and where I'm coming from, but it's like finding what you don't want to like not listen to your boundaries of yourself, but if it's not hurting you or harming you, if somebody told you to like get a vaccine and that's a little extreme, but like finding these middle grounds to like, okay, like I could understand that if this is real for you, I want to be sensitive to that, if that makes sense.
Sure, sure. And I just want to interject here because we have a really, really insightful comment.
Okay.
Raymond C. Says that I agree this pandemic is not about right or wrong, but the real lesson seems to be who can best manage their egos. The pandemic possibly exposing egos.
Totally. Oh my gosh, that's so true. It's so true because I had to put my ego aside a lot of times when I was really triggered. I've been really triggered by family, and then I realized it's not worth arguing. If I love my family members, our love is so deep that political stuff, we're just getting different sources of information. We're just seeing the world differently. You can't ruin a relationship or a friendship over this. And how I feel is having peace and acceptance that not everyone is going to see everything the same way you do. And that's everything in life, not just the pandemic. Everybody is coming from a different level of perception. They're coming from a different reality. They're coming from different past traumas, different levels of information. And the book, The Four Agreements, don't take anything personally. So whatever somebody's experienced, you can't control their experience. You can't, convince anybody. People are going to make their own decisions. So it's like, yeah, getting rid of the ego and being like, is love with the greater than the ego? And if your love is greater than the ego, then it's like, put my ego aside. I mean, I have people that are like so firm, like, I will not wear a mask. But it's like, you know what? If you don't believe in it, that's okay. But if you love somebody and you want to be sensitive to their feelings, do it because you care about somebody, not because if you're right or wrong, not because you're trying to prove a point, not because you're like, I haven't worn a mask and I'm not going to wear a mask. Be like, you know what? If that makes them feel good and you love this person, it's not going to hurt you for a little bit one time, And so I think it's like bridging that gap. It's like some people are so extreme. They're just like, I'm not doing this. And nobody should tell me what to do with my body. And it's like, okay, find the middle ground where you can be sensitive to other people's feelings. And like for them, it's not like an F you to them. It's like, hey, I understand and I feel for you and I feel that this makes you feel good and I want to protect you. And if this makes you feel protected, I'm going to do that. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Because, yeah, I mean, it seems like, our perspectives may be different, but I think we all pretty much want the same things, right?
Oh. Yeah. So it's like we all want the same thing. We all want health, right? We all want love. We all want peace. We don't want people suffering. No, neither side wants people suffering, right? We want health and wellness. And so at the end of the day, that's the common ground is that, we just want people to feel healthy and safe. And I think a lot of trauma has come up through all of this of not feeling safe for both sides, not feeling safe within our bodies.
Trauma, like past trauma that happened before this is now coming up to be dealt with, is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a collective awakening that's happening, and people are waking up for the first time, and trauma's coming up on both sides. So, going back to a time where the people didn't feel safe. And so a lot of people on both sides don't feel safe. We don't, people that don't want to wear the mask and don't want to get vaccinated, they don't feel safe. And the people that are, wearing the mask and getting vaccinated don't feel safe. So it's kind of like, okay, like both sides are just like, what do we do to feel safe? And we're just perceiving this situation differently. And yeah, that's how I've been seeing it, at least. Are there any other questions? I'm trying to figure out, I am seeing people in the comments. I'm trying to figure out how this all works.
Or comment, there aren't any questions.
Okay, there's no questions here.
I would like to ask you, what situations have come up with you in your family or your friends? Because I know we've talked about like your parents and so you told me various stories, and they've kind of like you for a while, and then they go back to the other.
Yeah, it's not easy. So, not to put anyone under the bus or whatever. I have a really close relationship with my family. And, half of it's like one side, half of it's the other side. They understand where I'm coming from now. They understand my beliefs and respect my beliefs, which, a lot of families don't. If you're the opposite, they're like, no, you have to believe what I believe. But I think everybody's come to an acceptance of where I'm at. And they're like, okay, I respect your decision. I understand your decision. I completely understand. And the thing is, my family's open. They're open-minded. So they're open to both sides. But they also watch, half of them watches mainstream media. And so, not to get, I don't want to persuade the audience one way or another, but when they were getting their sources of information, I said, okay, let me show you my sources of information. So then we could compare. They were open to seeing my perspective and my sources. But then, I can't watch my family members every single day, and I can't censor what they watch, and they can't censor what I watch, So at the end of the day, people are going to make their own decision. So they made their own decision. And some of my family members got vaccinated, and they were afraid to tell me. And so I had to get to the point where I'm like, you know what? It's your body and your choice. And I love you, and I respect you, and I honor you, that if this makes you feel good, because the way they were living was not healthy. The fear, the isolation, was way worse in my mind, because they weren't living life. And I'm like, if that makes you feel good and that makes you feel safe and that makes you feel protected, I support it 110%. Like, I'm there for you. And that was hard. It was hard because, I've been researching vaccines for over 10 years now, and I've been down the rabbit hole for a really long time. Everyone knows my beliefs on vaccines, and I've been researching it. And so, when I heard it, I was like, okay, I gave the information, I planted the seed, I said what I needed to say. And then people are they can make their own decision, and that's okay. And so I just saw how these family members of mine felt so much better and happier and freer and living their life, after they got the vaccine. I'm like, you know what? The damage of not getting the vaccine and the fear was way worse. So I'm like, for certain people, I'm like, okay, like, I support it. And so that's just kind of finding that middle ground of like putting my ego aside and like, also our belief system, like our mind, if we're like, this is going to hurt us, then it will. But if you're like, I'm safe and protected, the mind, as you know, is so powerful that it will tell the body. So if you're scared, then that's going to be have an effect on the body.
For sure. And I think, you touched on an important point, is that like, they were afraid to tell you. And I think, what I'm always advocating for is choice. I'm really just trying to present the facts that they may not see following media, and I'm not telling people do or don't get it. And I'm just saying, like, I'm opposing like mandates and restrictions and laws that would try to force people to get it. But at the end of the day, I'm very pro-choice and pro-informed consent. And so like I would never want anybody to like feel like they couldn't tell me. Like, first of all, it's none of my business whether you want to tell me or not. Like, if you want to tell me, that's kind of weird. But like, if you want to tell me, go ahead. I want my choice respected, not to, and my choice not to disclose it unless I really want to. Like, if I want that choice respected, I have to respect everybody else's choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a really good conversation actually with a friend of mine. I think a lot of people watching know that I do stand-up comedy. And I said, hey man, like what? He was like, hey, I'm going to book you at this venue, and we're going to do a show together. It's a lot of fun. And he kind of never came through on that.
Mm.
But he hadn't been doing any shows either. And I was like, dude, what's the deal with it was Tempe Center for the Arts.
Okay.
And I was like, we're going to do the show? Like, you keep talking about it, man. What's the deal? And he's like, yeah, the theater has vaccine passports.
Mm.
Like,
Uh,
so, like, I don't, he's like, I assume you're not. He's like, you could still come on stage, but everybody in the audience would have to show proof to get into the show. And he's like, look, he's like, I got it, okay? He's like, my naturopath told me that since my vitamin D level was low, I should get it, which I don't know.
he got the vaccine.
Anyway, he got it, but he's like, such bad discrimination to like only allow, like, he was like on board with me. He was like I'm not going to do a show there if they're discriminating against people. Like, I don't care. He's like, I don't support that. And I was like, wow, okay. So we're like totally having this freedom of choice. Hey, I got it. I don't care if you did or you didn't. And I don't want to be involved in anything that like discriminates against any type of person. And I was really impressed because I thought it was like, I thought the reason why he didn't invite me to do a show there was because I turned out he didn't want to do a show at a venue that discriminated on vaccine status.
Yeah. It's a very sensitive topic. It's interesting that he was sensitive to your feelings, and then you were like understanding where he was coming from. And so, yeah, well, that's good. So you ended up doing the show?
No, we can't because the venue enforces vaccine passports.
Oh, okay.
But the point I was trying to make was that like if we have to respect other people's decisions with their own body, because especially if we want ours respected, we got to be like, if one of your family members like, I didn't want to tell you but I got it, and like expecting you to fly off the handle, well, like, that's not good.
They respect my decision as well, so that is really nice. Like,
yeah.
My mom is like, I understand where you're coming from because we don't know the long-term effects. And she didn't want to get it, but, not to get too deep and, disclose too much, but my family's very open-minded. And I can't imagine being in a family that is pressuring me, because I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are in the situation where their family's pressuring them and won't talk to them unless they do, and or won't see them, and that's really isolating, and that's really hard, and that's really we're meant to have connection. We heal in community and not in isolation. So this whole pandemic has put a lot of strain on mental health, and we're supposed to be united, we're supposed to be together. And if we could just get over our egos, and maybe, if it comes up in conversation, you could tell somebody, I don't want to talk politics. I love you, and I know we're coming from different beliefs and we're coming from different sides, but, this is not something that I'm comfortable talking about, because the last thing you want to do is have arguments and fighting. And, but if there's people that are open-minded, give them love and come from a place of love instead of ego, because it's so often that people are in their ego. And, if you want people to listen, then ask thought-provoking questions and say, maybe look at this. What did you think about that? Or, but I think that some people are just, we want to push information down people's throats, and people are going to resist, and people are going to, get turned off and think you're crazy. And so just a little bit at a time, planting seeds a little bit at a time, and having love and compassion for where people are on their journey. Because, there was one time that I, believed everything was real and trusted everybody in the government and trusted that the news was real. And I, I got the HPV vaccine when I was 18 years old. Luckily nothing bad happened, but I remember my mom was in the doctor's office crying because she's like, we don't know the long-term effects. And the doctor said to her, she's 18, she can make her own decision. And so, at that time, I didn't know, And so I thought I was doing what was safe for my body and I was being safe. And now I don't even think they pressure people. They don't really advertise it. When I was 18, they advertised it everywhere and it was really popular. And now I don't think it's as, they don't really push it as much. But everybody thinks they're doing what's best for their body. And the thing is, nobody should tell anyone what to do with their body. And that people that have had trauma, maybe like sexual abuse or rape or any kind of abuse, it's like, you know, the masks are bringing back that trauma of being told what to do with their bodies, that they're not safe, that somebody else is telling them what to do with their bodies. And that could bring up a lot of fear, and it could bring up a lot of trauma and PTSD of times where somebody forced something upon their body. So I actually have friends that got the vaccine that were like, I wouldn't get it, but I didn't want to lose my job, and so I had to. And so, you know, they're being forced a medical procedure against their will. And so, you know, getting away from the topic of unity and division, just for anybody, no matter what side you are, there's people that are pro-vaccine that are like, I don't want something, you know, against my will and my body because I want to, you know, be in charge of my body and I don't feel safe, even though, you know, I'm pro-vaccine. So I think people that got the vaccine are also seeing the other side, like nobody should force anything. So that's what I've been seeing.
So we've talked about some ways to, you know, like navigate conversations with people who see things different than us, as far as like, you know, just really trying to like empathize and understand and like affirming what they're saying, so we show that we understand. Um, but one thing I want to get into, and I want to do one more thing before we do that, but one thing I want to get into is just strategies that we can use ourselves to just like cope with what's going on. And obviously, you know, so there's like a big fear vibration on the planet right now. It's very stressful living as a human in 2022. What are some strategies that people can use to stay sane? But I also want to just, before we do that, just can you kind of give people like where to follow you on social media and how to get involved with what you're doing and stuff like that?
So my name on Instagram is Awaken to Healing, T-O Healing. And my home studio is the Healing House Tempe. And I do workshops and sound healing, and I do private mentorship where I take people under my wing and I meet with them once a week and put together a program for them, whatever they're going through in their life. And I support them emotionally. So I'm very familiar with anxiety and stress because I've been through that. So a lot of my clients are really struggling right now with anxiety. So I take people one-on-one. I do one-on-one sessions. So you can, there's a link in my bio and you can book a free 15-minute call with me. And we could go over your goals and what you're working through and what you're struggling with. And I'd love if you can click on that link in my bio. We could set something up. And if you want to check out my home studio, it's in Tempe off Baseline in the 101. And I do sound healing and vision board workshops and meditation and yoga. So those are all kind of different tools to de-stress and to tap into the body, the physical body. And, you know, because a lot of people go to talk therapy, and what I really focus on is the mind-body connection. And now, you know, somatic healing and the body keeps score, and people are really getting tapped into what's going on in the body and how is that connected to the mind. So all of this stuff that's been going on in 2020 has brought up a lot for people in the physical body. And I know you've probably seen a lot more with autoimmune disorders or cancer or health issues. It's like all this collective fear is now manifesting in the physical. And so if we can tap into the physical body, release that, and you know, this could be years of trauma that's now manifesting in the body. So some modalities that I recommend are, you know, breath work, journaling, meditation, yoga, sound healing, exercise, going outside in nature. So there's so many modalities out there, but the thing is holding yourself accountable. So I think that's where I come into place. Is it's nice to have somebody that's rooting you on, like you can do this, or you know, following up with the person. I'm constantly following up with my clients and texting them like, hey, send me that journal exercise I gave you. And how did that interview go today? Or did you go out in the sun? Did you go out into nature? So I think, you know, we all get gym memberships and then we don't go. But it's like having someone hold you accountable and keep you on track. That's where I come in. So, oh, and you put my name in the comments. Awesome.
Yeah, but you should be able to just like click her name and like up top in the top left corner and go to her bio. So I think what we talked about was you know, unless you have other things you want to cover before we get into this, but just kind of taking everybody out with a meditation. And I think what we want to do is save this as a separate clip so people can go back and listen to it if they want. But let's end with that unless you have other things you want to talk about.
Well, I do. Do you mind if I take like 1 second to plug in my microphone and see if, because I unplugged my microphone because I couldn't hear you when it was plugged in for some reason, so I pulled it out. I could just do it like this if you feel that this is clear right now, or I could just plug in my microphone.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Audio is great right now.
Audio is great. Okay, the sound healing is sometimes a little tricky, so I'm still experimenting with the mic to pick up the bowls because I have singing bowls. But I'm here at the Healing House in Tempe. This is my home studio, and I don't know how much is coming up on camera. But yeah, I wanted to take everyone through a guided meditation, something really simple that you can go back to. It will be on my page. And just if you feel any emotions that have been coming up, you know, of fear, anxiety, this heaviness, you know, we've been kind of going through these waves of ebbs and flows. And sometimes we're like up here, like, wow, life is great. And sometimes we come down and I've been going through it too, you know, and it's like this. And so just having like a resource or tool to come back to when you're feeling ungrounded and uncentered, to come back to yourself and your body. So I could start to come into it now. Are you ready?
Ready. Let's go.
Okay. So if everybody can just come into a comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you, or you can lie down and close the eyes and relax the shoulders. And taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And continuing to breathe, feeling sensations in your body, having an awareness of your body. Slowing down the breath. I'm just noticing, observing what comes up for you in this moment without judgment. And letting go of stories. Letting go of pain and resistance. Continuing to breathe. And just noticing wherever you are in this moment is exactly where you need to be in your healing journey. Releasing any fears you have about what's going on in the world and trust that you are safe in this moment. And instead of everything's happening to you, it's happening for you, for your highest good. And just visualizing yourself being surrounded with peace, love, acceptance, understanding, compassion, and that you're being guided, protected, nourished. As you keep your eyes closed, just letting yourself sink a little deeper, noticing wherever you're holding any tension, tightness, holding, clenching, seeing if you could soften and let go. Letting go of any distractions, internal, external. Knowing that you are safe within your body. And it's in the stillness where we find all the answers. And instead of thinking and doing, try to tap in to just being. Clearing the mind of heavy thoughts. And releasing them from the body. And I invite you to visualize yourself at the beach. And you're on the shore, walking up to the ocean. And you're going to let the waves come up to you and clear whatever is in your body that's stored, that's stuck. Maybe we can melt it away and release it, relax it, unwind it. So coming up and walking up to the waves. just allowing the vibration, the sound, the waves to wash over you. Finding the peace within yourself, so then you can find the peace within others. No matter what side you're on, knowing that we are all one and all connected. Bringing in the energy of love and releasing the energy of fear. Surrounding yourself in the love and the light. And connecting that love and light with every person you meet and interact with. Releasing their fear for them with this love and this light. And spreading this love and light wherever you go. And taking a deep breath in. And deep breath out. And starting to come back into awareness. Starting to wiggle around the fingers and the toes. And circling around the ankles and the wrists. Maybe stretching your arms overhead for that nice long stretch. And release the arms down. Opening the eyes when you're ready, or continuing to stay in meditation while this video is off. But for all those that are still here, thank you so much. And you can find me again, Awaken to Healing, T-O, Healing, Healing. And do you have anything else to say before we sign off, Ben?
No, that was fantastic and a great place to end it. And we'll be reposting this video live and also just the meditation for you guys soon. So thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you so much.